Hello, bridge builders! I'm here with some exciting news. The first volume of interviews is now available on Amazon.com. The link can be found at eatlunchandboardgame.com. I promise that all proceeds from sales of this book will go right back into this podcast and channel. Whether that is new and better audio equipment for the podcast, or video equipment for the YouTube channel, or even more games to review, the money will not be wasted. Click over to Amazon and get your copy of Eat Lunch and Board Game, the first course today. And thank you for supporting the show. Have you ever bought so many games that you had to ask a friend to help haul some back for you? Me either. But what an amazing goal to aspire to, for sure. Nick Seal, one of the many people who bring Kansas City's gaming convention KantCon to life, well, he has had this problem. And in today's episode, he tells this story as well as another time, yes, not the same time, but a different time, that he filled an entire Prius with games. Nick has set this bar amazingly high for us gamers, and I hope to one day have a same story filling my small Camry. Nick and I have a great conversation this episode. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Eat Lunch and Board Game. I'm your host, Adam Collins, and with me today is the director of games for KantCon, a gaming convention in Kansas City at the end of July this year, Nick Seal. Nick, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Well, now that I think we're kind of hitting summer in the Missouri area, I think, finally get a kick on the air conditioner and leave it on,
Yeah. For sure. It's heating up a little bit here. I think it hit 80 some degrees over here. So
it's those overnights when it gets down to like 40.
Yeah.
It's like it's 85 during the day and 47 at night. It's like, what the heck is going on?
Welcome to the Midwest.
Absolutely been here my whole life.
Yeah, I grew up in the Kansas area, and it could be snow on the ground in the morning and 70 or 80 by the afternoon. So
I read somewhere, welcome to the Midwest, where we can experience all four seasons in the same day.
Exactly.
So, Nick, what all do you do for the gaming community?
Well, I first and foremost love to spread the joy of gaming. So one of my passions is not just playing games, but running games. So I've been involved in and running games for years and years now. And part of that is I have been involved in running KantCon, as you mentioned. Been involved since it started about over 13 years ago. And part of what I do there is I help with the Play to Win program, making sure that is running without hitch. I help make sure the library program there is also running well. The swag is flowing freely, then going out with the raffles, some of the special event coordination, the program book, volunteer staff management, etc. So just a lot of different involvement with that since I'm on the board of directors. I also, on my free time, like to host game nights or join local board game store game nights and try to show off whatever games I can to help, spread the joy. In fact, I'm known for giving up my seat at the table to play a game specifically so someone else can have a seat and I'll just run the game. So I demo games through a program called Envoy. And along with that, I also help partner with other game conventions such as Midwest Game Fest, which usually is in November, but in this case will be in December of this year. And along with a charity event called Meeple-a-thon that has historically been just usually one-day events. This year it'll be a 3-day event in the end of September, early October.
Wow, so they're really stepping it up this year, huh?
Yeah, they are going to 3-day convention. It won't be 24/7 as far as not overnight like it was last year, but it'll be a full 3 days. And on top of that, I usually run games at Geekway to the West, and also usually attend Planet Comic-Con running games for people there at Planet Comic-Con. We have a full game area that's like a small convention just for gaming at this giant comic convention.
Yeah, so Geekway, I have no idea how we did not run into each other and know it.
Right? Yeah, I think we just crossed paths and probably I stood in line behind you at some point, or
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
sure. I'm sure we did because like I was there. I had a booth. I was there 3 of the 4 days. 4 days is a lot. It's a long time to be standing in a booth. But yeah, it's too bad we didn't know about each other at the time. Our
yep.
mutual friend Brad, who runs Midwest Game Fest, is the one that said, "Hey, yeah, talk to Nick. He's really into this. He's a really big into games, just like you." So, but yeah, I'm a part of the Herald program as well with Envoy. I love it. I'm glad to see they're starting to come back. This just the last, oh man, 4 to 6 weeks is when they really started, like, in my opinion, starting to see those emails again.
Oh
Hey,
yeah. Fast and Furious with all the different opportunities there for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a lots there, and if you're interested in joining the convention circuit and helping out with that, they have so many opportunities there, which is one thing I love to do.
yeah,
To try out new games and see the convention and share some games with people. I loved running games for Red Raven Games, for example, at Geekway the West. It was great fun running Sleeping Gods and Now or Never. So
yeah. Sleeping Gods is on my list to play. I have not got around to it yet. Seems a little, it's a little daunting as it looks like. It looks like a pretty big, heavier game than I normally play.
it's Sleeping Gods is not, I would say, actually that heavy of a game or complicated. There's a lot of story and a lot of involvement in over the course of, or investment, I guess you could say, over the course of time to get through the whole campaign. But it's not really a difficult game to pick up. It just has a few basic, straightforward mechanics each time you take a turn. But really, it's about the story. It's about exploring the world, going from point A to point B, learning what you can, figuring out, oh, well, I need to come back here once I have this other thing, and then I can explore further over here. So it's really just about exploring the world and trying to survive and do the best you can with the resources you have available. So it's honestly, Now or Never is a far heavier game. Sleeping Gods is actually, I would say, maybe medium at the highest. It's really not overly complicated, in my opinion. But
Well, according to Board Game Geek, that is a 3.18 weight. Sleeping Gods is 3.18. Let's see what Now or Never is real quick. 3.65. So it's right there on the. Oh, that's
huh.
Ryan. That's the same guy that did Above and Below and
hmm
all
Yeah,
those.
Now and Never is the third in the Arzim series that started with Above and Below, continued with the Near and Far, and now it's Now or Never is the third in the trilogy. But it's definitely a much more of a brain burner, as it has a lot more options. I don't care what the BGG rating is. Honestly, that weight is not appropriate for Sleeping Gods. I don't think, based on what I have
Uh,
experienced of it anyway, the puzzles or whatever is driving that weight is not there yet. So
Maybe you're playing it wrong.
I don't know. Maybe I am, but again, maybe there's more to it that I just haven't gotten into yet because I'm only like one mission in so far. Because I've just repeated the same, introductory
Sure.
section and then some. So my group hasn't fully delved into it
It's
yet.
like
But
the crew. I'm not sure how many missions I keep playing, like
right,
just a certain amount of missions. And I know I haven't played the whole book yet, but
yeah.
it's such an easy game to teach and play. So
Right? It's fantastic. And I actually got through all 50 missions with two other people on Board Game Arena over the past year. We just recently finished the 50th mission for that original one. We were working
uh,
about a third of the way through on the newer copy.
I played the newer Ocean one,
hmm
Ocean Deep Ocean or something like that.
Yeah.
I just played that at Geekway as one of the play and wins out there. So
Yep.
it was the first time I got a chance to play it. Same idea, same mechanic, just different cards.
Yeah, and they definitely ramped up the difficulty a little bit with some of the different tasks,
Oh,
and it also introduced the two-player AI variant, which I think is now in the newer copies of the original game.
huh.
But it allows you, if you just have two players, to have dummy third player that one of the players is controlling as an AI effectively. So
Huh.
it's not perfect,
Interesting.
but it's definitely better than not being able to play it at all. So I definitely enjoyed
Yeah.
my trial of it.
Nice. So how did you get into gaming to begin with? Way, way back when.
Oh wow. Well, I started off the classic games. I think just about every kid grew up with. Moving into some party games in my college years, and I had my eyes opened, as it were. I saw the light when I joined a couple of friends that were on their way to Origins Game Fair. And at
Ah.
that point, they were going for RPGs primarily, but I jumped headfirst into gaming and never looked back at that point. I think I bought like 20 something odd games at that convention, and luckily the other guys didn't buy anything, so I filled the trunk of the little Prius we were taking over there. uh, Literally. And from that point forward, it's just I've been growing an assortment of games over the years and just dabbling here and a little there, and my tastes have spread from there, and I enjoy just about everything, honestly.
Filled the trunk of the Prius.
Yep.
Oh, it's a good thing RPGs are just books and don't take up a lot of space, huh?
Right, right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I can't
That's
say the same for board games. Not at
oh
all.
no. No, yeah, I love I like the fact that the carrying bags have become so readily available, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I bought another one at Geekway because why not?
Yep.
And but it's still, that bag is still big, and you can
Oh
only
yeah.
carry like 4 or 5 games. It's like, but what 4 or 5 games do I take? If I take this one, then I can't take that one. Well, if I take this one, I don't. Do I take 2 hidden movement games? Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Whereas RPGs, you can just throw everything you got into a
Yep.
bag.
Yeah, I struggle with that. That struggle is real for me on that. I literally have a foldable cart that I used to use to lug games around in bins, etc., to different events. Nowadays, I do try to limit myself to game bags. I actually have three, and I've got one that's a shoulder strap and two that are just the backpack style. But I can carry all three bags if I'm desperate. If I'm desperate,
Yeah, you
I
wear
can.
one on the front,
Right?
one on the back. Yeah,
Exactly.
I can see it.
One in each hand, and then one off on the back there. So yeah, so long as it balances, that's the most important thing.
Oh yeah, tell
So
me about it. I stepped out of my friend's house. I was just complaining about it the start of a game night, how his front porch light was so dim, and I stepped out, 3 hours later, and pitch black, and I stepped off his stoop and missed his sidewalk
oh
by
no,
hitting the edge of it. And the
yep,
second my shoulder shifted, I had my backpack on of games, and all that weight,
yep.
shifted as well, and it just threw me completely off balance. I
Oh,
completely jacked my ankle up. I couldn't walk the next day. I probably should have gone to have an X-ray and looked at, but by day 3, I was like, it's fine.
well, I'm glad you worked out okay, but the games are still safe, right? That's the important thing,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah, yeah.
No, no,
God,
I'm glad
yeah.
you.
Godfather was okay. That was my big fear was Corleone's empire got
Yeah,
hurt, and it didn't, so it was all
I'm
good.
I'm glad you recovered quickly from that. That could have been
Uh,
disastrous for sure.
so I'm going to come out to CantCon at the end of July, but I know I won't be coming by your house because that'd be kind of awkward and weird. But if I did, what is the game currently on your table? What game are you currently obsessed with or playing?
Well, since it just hit the table here on Geekway, I would say I'm currently working on Sleeping Gods, also Now or Never, as that has multiple chapters, and I'm learning and will be getting to the table here soon. Chip Theory Games' most recent one release, which is Burn Cycle. But those three games are probably taking up most of my time right now. But I honestly I love to try new things, so I'm always up for whatever my players have to bring to the table. But those are the top three at the moment.
I'll bring something crazy. We'll play it.
All right.
I'll find something that's like off the wall. I'll be like, yeah.
I don't know. You have to bring much though. I have quite the collection I have amassed over the years.
How's your shelf of shame doing?
It's terrible. It's not just a shelf. I wish it was just a shelf. It's more like the wall of shame or mountain of shame. As I
Oh,
actually worked two jobs for almost a decade and was amassing a collection of games. Now, I'm not a collector at heart, so I really just have a serious backlog to get through. Is my challenge. So, and with being part of Envoy, it hasn't helped anything.
no.
I've gained a lot more games through there, and of course, I still buy games, used or new, to add to the collection. So, and
Yeah.
Geekway's flea market and other events have not helped at all. I will,
I found Mystery of the Abbey at
yeah.
the flea market, and I was so happy. I've been trying to
Oh
find that
my,
game for so long for a decent price,
right?
and it was sitting right there at the
Yeah.
flea market.
I picked up quite a few games. I didn't intend to go last year, but I went and just saw several games that were out of print at a very reasonable prices. I was shocked. I think I picked up a copy of PI and I picked up a copy of Quantum and some others that were out of print at the time. And yeah, they were steals of a deal.
Oh,
I
yeah,
can I tell you a story about
absolutely.
so I do get carried away with board game purchases, and this is a shameful story, and I fully admit this. I'm embarrassed by this. One of the things about the virtual flea market, it's dangerous because you're arranging to buy games in advance, and you don't necessarily think about the volume. So, I mean, obviously we have vehicles we have to get, to and from, unless you're flying or whatever the case, which is where you have even less storage. I don't have a giant cargo van, but I just went crazy one year. I picked up so many games, I could not fit them all into the vehicle I
Oh
was
my
using to
gosh.
travel. I had to rely on the help of a friend who he actually camps outside of the Geekway area, whatever. He
What
camps and
I
drives to it each day. So he had his camper and I think it was a truck or van or whatever he was hauling. So I had to put not just one, but multiple bins worth of games in his storage area compartments to be able to haul off at home. I think it was four actually. So that's my story of shame, was where I bought so many games I had to rely on a friend's help to get them home.
That's
It was bad.
crazy.
I have since restricted myself quite a bit more and still end up with quite a few deals, but I vowed never to get myself in that predicament again because I was so embarrassed. It was
it,
so just sad to ask a friend that favor.
well, but sometimes, it's just I don't want to I don't want to be an enabler, but sometimes you just see a deal that's too good to pass
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
And
absolutely, and that was exactly it. I think it was my first time getting into the virtual flea market, and I apologize for interrupting you,
you're
but
fine.
I saw so many good deals and I just got carried away and I didn't stop to think when I was in the height of it. I didn't stop to think of the volume. It's also one of those things where unless you look carefully at the box, some are deceiving and you don't realize how big the box will be. So you think, oh, maybe it's a smaller box game. No, no, no. This is the biggest box game I could possibly find. And that happens more than I realize. Like so many games, I have a very good understanding of what the box size is. Most of them I do, but some I just like, this sounds fun. I'll, try it. And that box was huge. I'm like, oh, I did not expect that. Um, so,
Whoops.
right? Exactly. But,
No, so I was talking to somebody a couple interviews ago, and he has a box of shame,
mm,
and he doesn't buy anything unless there's room to put it in the box. And I'm
yeah,
like, just sounds like you need a bigger box.
right.
But it did make me think about, what if I compiled all of my games that I haven't played into a literal shelf of shame. I have a couple of different shelves where, if I feel like if I just got all the ones that need to be played, I could put them on one shelf. Now, whether I need the tall shelf or the short shelf, that remains to be seen. But probably the tall shelf.
Yeah.
Building the a literal shelf of shame, just to
hmm
see how horrible I am.
Yeah. It's I don't want to think about it. I'm actually considering. I just moved to a new house, and we finally have enough space to display all my games and the calyxes that we bought. I don't want to talk about how much I spent on that, but
The five by five,
I
of course.
yes, I ended up with 6 5x5s and 2 Billy bookcases to hold my games. And I'd love to say they'd all fit on those, but anyway, so it's too much. And that's my goal, is to whittle it down quite a bit. I want to trade away or sell or get rid of them, the ones that I have played and don't care for. But I want to try them all first before I can get rid of them, if I possibly can, which is my hang up. It's the thing I need to get past. But in the meantime, I'm thinking about how I need to organize my shelves, because I just was transferring them from the old house to the new house and just putting them on the shelves as quickly as possible, and without much organization of it all to think of other than size and how they'll fit. But now I'm thinking maybe I need to reorganize them by saying, okay, over here are the shelf of the games I've played, and over here are the games I haven't played, and that way I can know, that's what they are, and just try to get through them that way.
Try to get all of them from the haven't played to the played side.
Exactly. Or, that line, basically the vertical line is, slowly graduating
It
further to the
slowly,
left. Yeah, exactly.
it
So,
slowly works the
yeah,
way across
exactly.
the room.
Yeah. And
So
eventually
where's
there'll
the
be
wall
holes,
at?
hopefully.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that my son, we just organized all the games and everything, and then I was like, man, it would be kind of fun to build like, like stack them into a virtual,
Mm-hmm.
they're not virtual, but a literal shelf of shame. But yeah, I've got that stack in front of my shelf right now of games I need to get rid of. The games that,
Yeah.
like you said, I played, I didn't really care for them, or games that like I got a new game that does the same thing better,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna go back and play that one anymore. It's like I have Scotland Yard and I also have Spectre Ops. It's like, do I need both of the hit movement games? But I mean,
Yeah. It's a good
yes.
question. It's a hard answer for some of those though, because it's like, well, I enjoy the theme of both and they do it differently enough that maybe I do want to keep them both. But
Yeah,
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 it's tough for me. I'm so keen on so many different themes and on some different mechanics that it's hard for me to get rid of something or to dislike something. That's part of the problem is that I like too much. I enjoy too much, and I have a hard time partying with them sometimes because of that same reason. Also, it makes the whittling down process that much more challenging.
yeah. And also they all end up connected to some kind of memory, and
Yeah,
when your game group's going to grow and shrink and turn over, and then you're like, but I want to play this game with some new people, and then you play with new people, and you're like, yeah, this is why I love this game. And then you
hmm,
play it a couple more times, and it goes back to gathering dust until you beat two or three new people to play it with again.
exactly, exactly. And I am forever running the same game over and over again to teach it to new players because you haven't played this game, you must play that game. I must teach this to you, just because that's part of my passion. I love teaching games. So
Oh yeah, it's like like my whole podcast, trying to build the bridges of communication over board gaming, and I at my office now, we play games where we start off, you know, with a level set, and then getting more and more complex games that can be played within an hour.
yep.
And you're like, oh, you haven't played King of Tokyo? Oh my gosh, you have got to play King of Tokyo. Do you have kids? You have kids? Then you're going to love this game. And you know, I teach everybody King of Tokyo because
Yep.
why not? It's such a great entry level game and can be played so fast, and there's so many different add-ons and stuff that
Yep.
like, oh, and for kids, I mean, that game got my son into gaming when he was 3, and
Wow.
so he's 10 now, but we've been playing games for a long time together, but King of Tokyo was his first real game, and that, to me, it's like that game should be just, if you have kids, that's the game right there. Boom, go
Hmm.
with it.
Yeah, we started pretty young. We actually started with some of the Haba collection or Peaceable Kingdom games. My kids are still working on learning the merits of being a good sport. So some of the games don't go over as well for unless they're cooperative. So it's still a
Yeah.
challenge for some of them.
How young's your youngest?
She just turned 11, and that
Oh,
that's not very young for
no.
that sort of thing to learn. But they're still both working on. I mean, at times they're great, but other times not so great. So it makes it challenging. At times like, all right, what's going to be this time? Is it going to go over well, or is it not going to go over well? We're going to have some hurt feelings, or yeah,
Yeah. You never know until it's too late.
yeah,
Well, probably shouldn't have played that game today.
yeah. It's hard. It's hard to know sometimes, for sure. Actually, and
Uh,
you asked earlier about my games on my table. One other one I would have to add is Return to Dark Tower. I played that and it fell in love with that head over heels immediately, and had to spend too much, which I don't love doing, but I had to spend too much to buy it immediately because I just loved it so much. It's so thematic.
I yeah. Um, I have a vague recollection of playing the original one back in the late '80s,
Yeah.
and so like this one, I was like, oh yeah, and then the price tag just kind of kept me away from that one.
Yeah.
So
You could get the base game, and honestly, I think you'd be happy with it unless you have to have miniatures or have to have the expansion, which I don't think even most people even know is out there or necessarily uses other than the character expansion components. So I just went in for it. Unfortunately, I spent too much money on it on a whim, but I was like, you know what? I haven't done this in forever, and I try not to. So I just jumped on it because I knew I'd love it and I want to play it for forever. And I did not grow up with it, so I don't have any nostalgia over the original copy. But from what I've heard, it's so vastly different. I mean, it is an homage and improves so much upon the original in so many ways. Is from what I've heard based on what I've researched on it. Um,
Yeah, I didn't have it growing up. One of my friends had it in grade school, and I think we played it once or twice at a sleepover or something, and that's about it. So I don't have that nostalgia draw to it. But you backed it on Kickstarter then?
I did not. I picked it up after the fact, which is,
Oh.
I paid even more for it than I should have. But yeah, it was. I actually played copies of people who had backed it on Kickstarter, so I saw all those
Ah.
shinies that of course, had to have once I
Oh
figured
well,
out
yeah.
that what it was.
That's Restoration Games, right? That did that.
Yes, it is. And of course, I just
Yeah.
played one of their, lower cost games, which is Key to the Kingdom, and was pleasantly surprised that it's a very approachable family game that surprised me with how much more enjoyable it was for adults as it is for children. It has just enough complexity and, fun little elements to it. So, yeah, that company is going places.
Yeah, my favorite game by them is Downforce. I just
Yeah, it's great.
love it. It's such a great mechanic, and they did such a great job with the different tracks and all
Hmm.
the crazy driver abilities and all that. And then I like to take my Mario Kart gamer Monopoly and use the Mario Karts. And then if you go to Board Game Geek, you can find rules to play Mario Kart on Downforce.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
had not
Oh,
heard about that. I have to check that out.
yeah, it's amazing. And I always say I paid more for Bowser than I think I did for any other piece of that game. But I had to have Bowser because I needed the car that color. I think he's yellow,
Yeah.
maybe, and I needed the yellow car for the downforce. And I'm like, I think I spent more money buying Bowser than anything else in that game. So no, and I'm telling you, it's a riot. And since it's obviously not official, we played it at work a few times, and we tweaked the rules a little bit to make it a little bit more competitive, a little bit more take that even. And so it was, yeah. I
I
love restoration games.
Yeah, it's a great company so far that I've seen. A lot of their stuff is fantastic. So I enjoy Downforce. I haven't tried the Mario Kart version, so I have to check that out and see if it could be adapted for Rainbow Road, for example, of course, if
Oof.
that's even a thing.
Ugh.
Heaven forbid, right?
Ugh,
Just
the
you'd be
worst
falling
quest
off. Yeah,
ever.
right. You'd be falling off the sides all the time.
Oh man. So back to Kickstarter. Do you back Kickstarter? Are you a creator on Kickstarter?
I am not a creator. I have backed many a Kickstarter in long ago, and I was burned. A lot of projects did not fulfill in the early days, and unfortunately, I got burned too many times. And so I will back Kickstarter nowadays only if I know the company will fulfill, and that's companies that have been proven, or specific projects that I know. For example, anything that Gamelin Games puts out that's a tiny epic game, I will back it without hardly even blinking at it because I've had so many successes. There are some ones that I didn't love, but overall, I think their products are well done and well developed. Um,
they had a few misses
mhm.
in a row, and I stopped backing them, and then I played a couple of them again a geek way that I hadn't played before.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh dang, they're back.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They've had some misses. I will say. I think Western was not one of my favorite zombies, but I think was a miss. Defenders was one that I still haven't actually checked out yet, but there are a lot that I've really thoroughly enjoyed, starting with Galaxies, and my honestly one of my current favorites between dinosaurs or dinos and the mechs. The mechs was the one that surprised me. I like action programming, but I've never really loved combat games in general. But Tiny Epic Mechs was definitely a win for me.
See, that was the one that I didn't care for.
Hmm.
I didn't care for mechs. I Tiny Epic Quest. Oh my goodness, Tiny Epic Quest is like my favorite one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about it. It's like the worker placement, but then trying to also move, and
Yeah.
you have to choose the movement, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's something about the whole way that comes together, along with the paths. You're trying to get the torches and the tomes or whatever to move
Yeah.
down that path, and you're trying to equip your people. I like that one a lot. Dinos though, oh my goodness, that one was great.
Right. Yeah.
And
And
then
I'll
I
just
just
say
picked up Pirates, and I haven't played Pirates yet.
it's pretty solid if you like pick up and deliver. It has a
Yeah,
great rondel system, honestly, and I think it's really solid. I've only played it once so far, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm still waiting to get my copy of Dungeons to the table. That's my next one, also to try to get to the table here soon.
I'm pretty sure half of Game One Games is on my shelf of shame because I haven't played Pirates and I haven't played Dungeons.
Yep.
Um, and I tried to play Tactics a couple different times, but I feel like that one's just so messy.
Yep. Yep. It is.
Anyway, so what was the first Kickstarter that you backed? Do you remember?
It was actually not a game. It was to pre-register for a local game convention. You might have heard of it. It's called KantCon. So it was actually when I was not directly involved with running it, and I think the second year they actually went and used Kickstarter as a platform to raise money for attending. So that was the first Kickstarter project I actually ever backed. The first game I ever backed was an old title from the TMG company. Rest in peace.
Yes.
It's called For the Win. It's a little tile placement game, but it had zombies, pirates, ninjas, aliens, and monkeys. So how can you go wrong with that combination? Uh,
I can't see how you possibly could go
right?
wrong with that. That is
Except
a combination.
right?
Sweet.
Except it wasn't a great game, sadly. But I backed it because again, early days, and I was younger, and I jumped on it, and Kickstarter was new to me, and I jumped on quite a few projects with a lot of zeal and overdid it, I will say, and that's part of what led to me being burned because there's too many that fell through. Although I am proud to say I was a season one backer for Zombicide, so I
There
got in
you
the
go.
very first season for that. So I
Nice.
had some of the promos that were hard to come by for quite a long time.
Oh,
So
yeah. Poor TMG. Guess we'll never get that Crusaders expansion, huh?
yeah, that was a game I was surprised about the base game. I hadn't seen the expansion for it, but yeah, I was sad to hear that they were shutting down because I think they made some solid games.
Crusaders is one of my favorite.
Yeah, it's very
Uh,
good.
that again, Geekway blew my mind playing
Right?
that game. Oh
That's where
my
I first tried it
goodness.
too. Yeah. Is the play to win at
Ah,
Geekway how many years back? 3-4 years back? And it was surprising.
19.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so good. The expansion's listed on BGG. I don't think we'll ever see it, which is sad.
Yeah.
So,
Unless someone picks up the license for it, maybe, but that might happen. It happened with Minion games. Rest in peace again. But yep.
but then they got the rise of all the small indies that are coming now. So,
Yep. Yep.
so a during your day job, do you play games at lunch with your coworkers?
I wish I could, but it's not in the cards for me. At the moment, I actually work from home, but even when I was in the office, we didn't have lunches like communal, like, hey, let's get together and play game sort of events at all. So it wouldn't have worked even if I wanted it to, but I totally would if I could.
Well, it's funny because I started off, like I said, doing like a level set. We played a lot of Clue, but a lot of the different versions of Clue. So we had
Yeah.
like the Secrets and Spies and the. I never got the mystery, the art one. What was that one called?
Mysterium?
No, the Clue, the Great Art Caper
Oh,
Museum,
sorry.
or what? Anyway, we played a couple of the other ones with the Black Light and
Hmm.
the Secrets and Spies, Discover the Secrets. So we played a lot of different Clue,
Hmm.
but that was fun. And then we kind of started stepping out, and more people started showing up, and then it was like we had the trophy, and everybody wanted to come play to win the trophy. And now it's like, hey, we playing games today? I'm like, Thursdays. Remember, we just said it's Thursdays the game day. If you want to play games any other day, you know where I sit. You know I've got a drawer full of games. Come get me. We'll play a game. But this Thursday, I don't know what we're playing. I don't know how many people are going to be there, but we'll play for the trophy on Thursday.
Nice. Yeah, sorry, I missed earlier. You were referring to different iterations of Clue there, but that sounds
Oh no!
awesome. You got a trophy to compete for.
Oh, absolutely. It travels around. You can always see who won because
Right.
whoever has it puts it up way up high on their
Of
cubes,
course.
so everybody can know that person won
Yeah.
the trophy.
Bragging
So
rights.
yeah, right, yeah. And then sometimes a little bit too much trash talking, so we gotta, guys, it's just a 3D printed trophy. All right. So if you did play games at lunch, what would be your go-to 60-minute for a lunch hour? What would be your go-to game?
Oh, I'm not sure I could ever settle on just one. My top probably three, if I had to go for them, if you could call them 60-minute games, would be Sentinels of the Multiverse, because that one is near and dear to my heart. And I think it can play in as quickly as 60 minutes. Otherwise, it would be Dead Men Tell No Tales, another cooperative game. That's the game I love to lose at. Instead of Pandemic, it's Dead Men Tell No Tales, which just got reprinted from Renegade. They picked up the license from Minion Games, and yeah, it's a solid one with a pirate theme. And then another one would be Between Two Castles of Matkin Ludwig. Those three are probably my top three I would play for shorter, under an hour anyway.
Yeah, the
So,
last one was like another one I played at Geekway a
oh,
couple years ago. Maybe that was even 19. I don't remember.
yeah. And that one, they have an expansion out for that one now, which lowers the player count to one, I believe, and expands it up to eight. So it even expanded
Oof.
even further than it already was. And again, it doesn't change the setup time really, because it's a super fast game to set up and
Yeah,
tear down.
and I like the mechanic a lot of, you score between your two castles, and so it's such the first couple times playing it, I was completely lost and trying and trying to figure out how it all went together.
Yep.
And then I'm like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. Had you played Castles before?
I had not.
And that I think makes a difference, because a lot of that scoring, a lot of the same way mechanisms there are pulled from Castles, and that's one thing I love about it, is that it has all those different scoring mechanisms, the bonuses you can earn. And I'm an old hand now at teaching that game, and it's something I love to share with other people, and it scratches that almost a cooperative and competitive itch for people, because I can play it with people who are diehard competitive game fans, and it's still obviously there has to be a winner in that game.
Yeah.
But it feels cooperative most of the game, because you have to work with your partners on either side
Yes.
to play. So
But not too much.
right, not too much.
It's finding that balance. You want to maximize your points while only giving them as many points as necessary.
Yeah, yeah,
So, no, but Dead Men Tell No Tales. I haven't played that one, but it's Kane Klinko. I like a lot of his games, so to maybe track that down.
yeah. I would equate it to Flashpoint on steroids. It's your
Dude,
pirates boarding a burning pirate ship that's modular. So every time you play, the ship is going to change. You're dealing with the heat levels in each room, trying to maintain that so the rooms don't get too hot and explode, and maybe cause the routes to be impassable. You have to deal with a steady nuisance of these little skeleton crew, little tokens that keep popping up through trapdoors and keep spreading out, etc. You have to kind of maintain, keep those in check. And you also have to deal with going in and finding the skeleton guards and defeating them, so you can find the loot and haul the loot out. So you have to deal with a lot of different factors. You also have, each pirate has a unique player power, and you have a fatigue dial. So as you go from room to room, if you move from a cooler room to a hotter room, you take fatigue, and it wears you down. It makes it so you can't enter certain rooms of certain heat levels. So there's a lot going on there, and it's solid.
that sounds amazing.
It is really good. I mean, the artwork to me is just absolutely gorgeous. You've got
Oh my
equipment you can
gosh.
also pull, you can steal from other pirates, and grab it and, hey, toss me your cutlass, that sort of thing. It's again, it's the game I love to lose at, because I would say I lose probably about half the time, maybe more, because I've had some by the seat of your pants or skin of your teeth sort of wins so often. I'm like, oh, let's just see what the next card would have been, and it would have ruined us.
Decimated you.
It would have just destroyed us. So
Awesome.
or so many win or almost wins. We're like we were this close, and we almost pulled it off, and it just had bad luck with the card draw. But I mean, there's luck for sure, but it's so great the way you can try to mitigate and manage it, and it's a good little puzzly kind of balance of efficiency of trying to keep on top of everything while you can. So,
Might find its way to my shelf of shame shortly.
you should for sure. Like I said, the fact that Renegade reprinted it, they picked up the license, shows that it's worth being reprinted
Yeah.
and being played.
Well, that's what I hope with TMG. I like Crusaders. I like Harbor a lot. Such a great
Oh yeah.
small game. Oh my goodness, Harbor, so great. I just wish somebody else picks that up. Crusaders, I hope somebody picks it up and releases that expansion, because I don't know what it is. I want it. Just I love Crusaders, and every time you play different people. They go about it differently. You have to adapt. Oh, just I always I always find that with the little rondel system they've got, I'm always off one. I either have too many, or one, or not, or one too few to reach the exact where I need it to be.
Yep.
I'm like, dang it.
Yeah.
That almost worked.
Yeah, it can be rough sometimes how that works. And the other ones that I've loved of theirs are Belfort, which is a one that they had early on. Yokohama was a surprise hit for me. I didn't think I liked that game, but I loved it. And then there was another game I'm struggling to remember the name of. That man, it was I think it was like an Oregon Trail sort of game. I'm trying to remember what that title was though. Of course, I'm just blanking, but I'll think of it later. They had some really good titles.
That'll always happen.
Yeah, for sure. But, yep.
So how about a 30-minute game? You're playing it for a lunch, half hour, something you can get down and up.
Yeah, I would say the top ones for me would be Magic Maze and The Crew, honestly. Maybe even Wavelength, depending on how long you go and what group you're working with. But those would be my top three, I'd say, for 30-minute games. I can never get enough Magic Maze and The Crew. Actually, all three of those games, I love them to death.
Yeah, so. Magic Maze, somebody else has mentioned. I haven't played that one yet. Crew, definitely. Crew's great because you can play a hand. Just,
Yep.
Just
exactly.
play this one mission with me. Sam, play this one mission with me.
And Magic Maze is great in that it builds. It starts you off with the most basic mechanics, and then you play that for mission one, and it's kind of like The Crew in that you get progressively more challenging, but it intentionally adds more mechanics as you play later missions. So it makes it more challenging as you go, but it also gives you some boons as well later on. It's great, and it again scales really well up to 8 players. So it's quite challenging. Although if you don't like chaotic real-time games, it's not going to be for you. But it is a good one, and it plays so quickly too. On top of that, actually, one other one that I thought of would be Ubongo, one that not a lot of people have heard of or played, but it's a great little polyomino puzzly game that is super fast to play as well.
Nice. No, chaotic real time. Did you ever play Kane Klinko's Pandemic Rapid Response?
I have not played that one yet. I'd like to try it for sure.
That is the definition of chaotic real time. It is.
Oh yeah.
The whole game, I think, plays like 24 minutes is the most it could possibly go.
Nice.
Because you can only flip the 3-minute timer, 8 times. So that's it. So 24 minutes, you've either won the game or you've lost. And it's crazy.
Have you played Stay Cool or Space Alert?
So Stay Cool, I have. Space Alert, I have not. But Stay Cool, oh my gosh.
Right. You said flipping the timer, and it made me think of that one.
Yeah. Did you flip it? Flip it. Yeah. Flip it now.
Right. It's too early.
Wait, what were you asking me? I'm sorry.
Right.
What was the question? Yep. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Space Alert is super chaotic. You're cooperating on it. You're little cadets on a spaceship. You just got launched out into space, and you're immediately getting attacked. You have to go. You have to program what your character is doing. If you do it in the wrong order, then it's going to resolve. Like, for example, you have to move up, down, left, or right, or push A or B or things like that. And that sounds really simple. until you factor in the fact that if the person in engineering doesn't send energy to the ray gun or the weapons, the person might be pushing the button up above there trying to fire the ray gun, and it doesn't go off because it doesn't have any energy. So you have to have all these things in the right order. Otherwise, you're just, run around like chickens with their head cut off, accomplishing nothing. It's chaotic, it's good, and it's so much fun.
What
Um,
the fuck? That one sounds
oh yeah,
awesome.
it's an oldie, but it's a goodie for sure. From CGE, it's quite fun, and it has a little soundtrack that a computer that tells you what's going on, the different incoming intruders, aliens, and they're coming different lanes, things like that. My favorite is
Awesome.
when you program and you program it all in real time, and then you resolve it all. You say what happens as a result of everyone's programming. You're like, okay, well, Bob just ran into the bulkhead 3 times because he went left 3 times in a row instead of doing something productive. So good job, Bob.
Way to go, buddy.
Right?
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. So I love those real time games like that. Also,
Oh,
Sonar and Fuse,
oh.
all those real time games. I really enjoy them a lot. So,
Yeah, Sonar, Captain Sonar. Yeah, we
mm-hmm.
play those a lot. Um, I find I'm either dead on it or I have no clue what's going on. And it's like I can play, and I play the same group all the time. So, and they all know, like, man, I don't know, is Adam actually going to be any worth anything tonight? And I'm like, I have no idea, man. What to just sit down and see, sit down and see
Right?
what happens.
Yep.
Because some games I'm on it, and other games I'm like, I don't know, man. They could be over here, or they could be like, clear. They could be behind us. I don't even know. Then they launch torpedo and hit us. I'm like, yeah, they were behind us. You know.
Yeah. It's always good to see how that works out.
So how about a hidden gem, a game you don't think gets enough attention?
Oh, I have a good one for this one. It did
Oh,
take me long to think of this. And this is a game you would be hard pressed to find anywhere. It is called Thunder Hamsters in the Temple of Cheese. This game is designed by just an individual that would self-publish, and I don't mean like he would send it off to GameCrafter and get it published. I'm talking he would hand make the boxes. He would glue it all together himself and all that. So the components are not fantastic, but the gameplay, it lasts long. It's about the length of an RPG game for like a one shot, like 4 hours roughly, 4 to 5 hours, but it is just epic levels of chaos and fun because it actually has some RPG elements. You're playing as these hamsters going into this temple of cheese, trying to find the big wheels of cheese, and it's semi-cooperative. At the end, though, you are one person's going to win because they're going to have the most cheese or whatever, right? So it sounds stupidly simple, but you're going in as you encounter things, whether it be a rat guard or it be the wheel of doom or just a cheese wheel or whatever you're trying to get out. You have to tell a story about how you accomplish XYZ task. And then you point to another player and they have to judge your story, give you a rating,
ugh.
which is the difficulty level for your dice roll. Now, it doesn't stop there. People have a number of coins they can chip in to modify your story, and then they have their story judged. So it just snowballs from the simplest little stories to, oh yeah, now there's a magic flying carpet, and then there's magic this and that and whatever else going on. It's just chaos. It's fun, but it's chaotic. And then I kid you not, there are P tokens. There are little yellow tokens for P, which I don't subscribe a lot to potty humor, but quite frankly, it just adds another level of humor. It's just nonstop laughter around that table whenever I run that game. So,
So how did you come across this game?
that was a designer was playtesting it at Origins. I think I went to Origins 3 years in a row, and I forget if it was the second or third year, but I signed up for his playtest and I tried it and I fell in love with it. And I have literally the first ever produced copy of that game. And I don't know how many he ever produced because, again, he was hand making them and he was a very small publisher to begin with. But I actually also created the board game entry, the BGG entry for that game because I fell in love with it. And everyone I play it with just loves it. They fall in love with it because it's fantastic. It's fun. It is lengthy, but it's worth it. And everyone just walks away with huge smiles on their faces and just memories. So I encountered it at Origins and contacted him. It's like, I have to have this game. So I reached out to him and he got me the first ever signed copy of the game. So
That's amazing.
yeah. and it's just phenomenal. And I haven't played it in probably several years now, but I used to run it consistently at
Oh
KantCon,
my
and
gosh.
I just miss it now. Now that you said that, asked me that question, it immediately popped in my head, and now I'm nostalgic for it all over again.
There you go. That's how you know it's a good game.
Yep, yep.
So in that game, are there colors?
Are there colors as
Yeah,
far as
like
like
are you a certain color?
you're a certain hamster? Each hamster is themed. Like there's a pirate hamster and a ninja hamster and a princess hamster and a Viking hamster. So you don't have pawns. You have little wooden pieces with the decals put on them with the different hamster, their artwork, for example. So there's little tiles for each of different things. There's lava pits, I think there is, and other sorts of traps and things of that nature.
So if there were colors, what color would you gravitate towards in a game?
Oh, I definitely would go for blue. That's my
Blue.
diehard color of choice. If I can't have blue, it's going to be green, then black in that order. Beyond that, I don't care. It's got to be one of those three, or I'll just accept whatever's left. But blue is far and away my color of preference.
Nice. No, it's so funny to me how people either jump right on it, like, oh, it's this color, or people are, like, oh, whatever. But most people are
Yeah,
like, oh no, it's like you, blue. It's blue.
yeah. It's there's no question. It's blue. You know. I'm glad that Board Game Arena allows us to choose those preferences because yeah, it's for me it makes a difference. When I'm not blue, it confuses me. When someone else is blue, it throws me off because I'm always trying to move their pawn or their scoring mark or whatever for myself. When I play my turns, I'm like, oh no, oops, sorry, that's not me
They're
this
like,
time.
yeah, like, can you put my piece back where it was? Like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. I don't want to give you points. I'll give myself points. I'll make sure I correct that mistake.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Right.
Yeah, I play red mostly or orange,
Hmm.
and then maybe black. If I'm not one of those three, I am struggling to keep track of who I am on this game.
Yep.
And
I understand that.
and I'm like, man, like the worst one ever was playing Ticket to Ride, and I thought I had every card I needed to connect my routes, and I was yellow that game and had all the
Oh
cards for
no.
black. So
Oh,
it's like, oh, whoops. I guess I'll not be winning this game.
that
So
definitely happens.
the last major question is, how do you pronounce Klaus Teuber's game, The Settlers of?
Catan. It has
Yep.
to be
Oh,
Catan. I was going to answer that with correctly, you know,
yeah.
because so many people pronounce it the other way. But honestly, I've pronounced it both ways. I'm not a diehard. I'm going to correct someone if they pronounce it one way or the other. But Catan is how I usually pronounce it. But I've caught myself saying Catan as well. So
See, I don't think I would even mistakenly say Catan. I
yeah,
I it doesn't even cross my 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 mind to say it incorrectly. My son will say Catan just because he knows I don't like. He knows it's Catan, so he says Catan.
yeah,
A couple of my friends say Catan,
yeah.
just but
And I
yeah.
think for me, because that was one of the first games I ever played when I got into the hobby. At Origins, I played a massive copy of Catan. See, I did it right there.
There you
And I
go.
think that's what happened is I had it stuck on my head. I saw the event and thought it was pronounced Catan. And I think somebody even pronounced it like that at the event. So it's like in my head as both. So it doesn't bother me either way when I hear it one or the other. But yeah.
Yeah, I I can hear it, and I'm like, I know you're wrong, but I'll be nice.
Right. I won't correct you this
There's
time.
no
This time.
reason to start a fight over that. I'll just be
Exactly.
nice about it. Yeah, yeah. I that game was the game that brought me back into the industry. Kind of exposed me to the hobby
Hmm.
side of the gaming industry.
Nice.
And I actually just taught my son how to play. He's been wanting to learn. We watched a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and
Yeah.
I found Catan pieces for the four different houses. So you have the air temple, the earth temple, the fire temple, and the water temple. And so those are the pieces that we use when playing Catan. Because he's like, "Oh, I want to play Catan." I'm like, "Is it because we have the?
That's awesome.
Is it because we have these pieces?" He's like, "Yeah." So I taught him how to play over the weekend. Well, we played a lot of Catan Junior with him growing up,
Hmm.
and that does a good job of
Yeah.
teaching a lot of the mechanics of it. And there's not a lot of interaction between players, but you have the option of buying the Cocoa Parrot instead of the Dove, the Dove card, and you can't trade with each other, but you can trade with the market. And I like it. I play it. We'll play it every now and then. I'll get my friends over and we'll bust out Catan Junior and play a very cutthroat version of you see. It's like when we took Rhino Hero Super Battle, the Haba game,
Hmm.
took it to work. I worked with a bunch of engineers, and we almost ran out of floors and walls because we were. I mean, it was insane the size of this building. But it was all of us, dads,
Oh yeah.
and we're all out there like painstakingly putting down our walls and laying the
Hmm.
floor down and
Yep.
then rolling the die to see how far up or down we go. And
That
oh my
game,
gosh,
to me, that game just broke Jenga. Like, why would you play Jenga when you can play Rhino Hero? Although I have to say, when I first played that game, it hurt me inside that you have to bend the cards to create the walls. I was like, no, I know they're designed for that. I know that in my heart, I know it, but it still hurts every time I see it and have to start with a fresh copy that doesn't have any bent cards. But
yeah,
no, it's
I,
it's a
I can see
fantastic
that.
game.
I can see that. But
Yeah.
yeah, oh my goodness, we played that one a lot, but then we brought in Super Battle, and I'm
Hmm.
telling you, I mean, we had a whole game. So was that 4 people, 5 people? I
Yeah.
don't know. We had as many players as it could possibly take, and we had it on the conference room table, and it was huge. And they're being all creative and setting like the wall, like a short wall in between two
Hmm.
tall walls, and then they put the floor just across the middle of it, and it's like, what are you doing, man? And it's just like hovering between them, and oh man, it was crazy.
Yep.
It's always fun when you play the games meant for kids with nothing but adults, and
But they're so approachable. That's what makes that game great because you don't have to be a kid to enjoy it. You can be an adult and enjoy it just as much or sometimes more so because you have more refined motor skills to be able to do that at a greater skill level than a kid would necessarily. So,
no, absolutely,
yep.
there's no doubt. You play with the kids and they're gonna bump it. When you play with
Yep.
a bunch of adults, you bump it, man. Someone's
Hmm.
gonna punch you. So you're real careful while setting those walls and floors.
And I have to ask, have you played Lift It?
Lift it?
Oh,
No.
yes. So this is a game where if you can imagine three-dimensional geometric pieces, you got your sphere, you've got your rectangular, your effectively your cube, etc., and they have holes in them like a wiffle ball. Okay, so you imagine
Okay.
those pieces, and imagine you have a little crane, little handheld crane. Okay, so you've got this little yellow piece you're holding. It has little string hanging down from with a hook at the end. And so you have to, in some challenges, you are lucky to be able to just use the crane with your hand to build these configurations of the geometric shapes by lifting them into place with the crane. Again, with your hand, it's pretty easy. But then they up the difficulty by some of the challenges. You have to use your head. You have a Velcro strap that goes around your forehead,
What?
and you attach the crane to your forehead with that strap, and you have to use your head. You're moving around your head to lift these pieces into shape, and it's timed, of course.
Well,
So
why
it's
wouldn't it be?
right. And then on top of that, there are cooperative ones where you have to share the hook with another character, another player,
Oh
where you
my
have both your
gosh.
head cranes are connected and you to a single hook, and you have to work together to try to build this shape in a limited amount of time with the
Oh,
other player. So
oh my
I'm
gosh.
not sure if it's still in print, but it was a USAopoly or OP now production,
The
I
op.
believe, the op, and it
That's.
it's a great little game. It's I would
Oh,
say one of the ones I would recommend for a raucous group of people, especially if you're drinking.
oh
It's one of
yeah.
those things that people already have to be careful with what they're doing in that game, or you're not going to be successful.
Oh
And on
my
top of
goodness.
that, you're timed. You get the idea. So
Oh yeah. Would you
it's
ever play
fun.
Team Three?
Yeah, oh, I
Ever?
love Team Three. I
Yeah.
love it. That's another go-to one for me for a quick game.
Yeah.
And that and Just One, but that Just One's a little longer. But yeah, Team Three is phenomenal. I have both copies, pink and green,
I
of
never
that
got my
game.
pink copy.
Yeah, I
Only
still haven't
only
played
got the green.
the mini game, but I always default to the green copy with those black cards, using as like
Yep.
the intro level ones to teach people. And I've actually used that as a team builder for when I do travel to show my different teams, and we actually use that Just One and Wavelength are my go-to team builder games.
I can see that.
Yep.
I can see that. Yeah. Team 3 is a good one where you're, playing like somebody can talk, somebody can hand gesture, and somebody's blind.
Yep. It's a great little game.
Oh, man. Well, Nick, I'd like to thank you for being on my show today. I've had a great time talking with you. I cannot wait to get out to KantCon. Well, what is that, about 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away from now?
Yeah, about that. It's the end of July, so you got a month and a half and change there. So, yeah.
And tickets still available to get in?
Yes, and they'll be available at the door as well.
There you go. So it's KantCon with a K.
Mm-hmm.
C-O, get it? K-C, KantCon.
Right,
okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a backstory there as to why it's the negative instead of the positive. Instead of being KantCon, it's KantCon. So
I guess I never looked at it that way. It's
Yep.
like, why can't I go to the con?
Because the original founder could not go to Gen Con that year. So the very first year, his KantCon, his inability to go to Gen Con is what created KantCon. And we've kept it.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing.
That's what created it.
I look forward to coming out there, meeting you on purpose this time. And
right.
We'll find some weird off the wall games from your Shelf of Shame that we need to get some playing in.
Sounds perfect. I look forward to seeing you there. It's been a pleasure to be on here with you, and I appreciate or look forward to seeing you at KantCon. So.
All right. If you want me to reach out to you, Nick, how can they do that?
We have a website at KantCon.com, and you can also reach out to me on Facebook if you want to get in touch with me directly. Just Nick Seal on Facebook.
All right. And as usual, you can reach me at elunchandboardgame.com, facebook.com/groups/elunchandboardgame, and email me at elunchandboardgame@gmail.com. And remember, board games build bridges.
That they do.
Stay in tune with all things sports around Indiana and the nation with the Crash Course Podcast. Each week, we tackle the big storylines from the world of the Colts, Pacers, and the Indiana college scene, while also keeping a pulse on the nation. We record live weekly at twitch.tv/3C Media and can be found on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard, you can catch the Crash Course Podcast.
When you're gaming, why not be comfy? Go over to supportplayer.org. Click on the cards, pieces, and dice to get some merch. These t-shirts are some of the most comfortable I have ever worn. That's supportplayer.org, and there's a link on eatlunchandboardgame.com.